Americans have this almost sick need to compare ourselves to others, our weight, our house, our car, our career. Social media and the news, they feed it to us constantly because comparison gets clicks. But here's the problem with comparison. If I compare my basketball skills against, let's say, Michael Jordan, I lose. If I compare my bank account against Oprah, I lose. You may even look up the guy voted most likely to succeed from your high school. You might go over and stalk his LinkedIn for 10 minutes and you still walk away feeling like you lost. It's not because something is wrong with you, it's because the comparison was designed to make you feel that way. Those comparisons are false. They're built to grab your attention for 5 seconds, not to tell you anything true about your life. That same fear mongering happens with retirement savings. Every few months, a new headline drops telling you how much you should have already saved by now. And almost everyone who reads it, they walk away feeling behind. That's not an accident. That's the point. Today I want to show you what the numbers actually look like. Not the top 10%, not the billionaire benchmark, just the real middle of America. And I think you're going to feel a lot better about where you stand today. Here's something almost nobody in retirement planning will even say out loud. Most of the numbers you have been given are wrong. Look, not wrong because someone intentionally lied to you. Wrong because they were built for someone else. The $1 million target, the 80% income replacement rule, the 10 times your salary by 65 benchmark. Those numbers describe the top quarter of Americans, not the middle, not most people, just the top quarter. And when you spend your final working years measuring yourself against a number built for someone who earned more, inherited more, had fewer setbacks than you did, you trade years of your life chasing a gap that may not even exist. Today, we look at the actual numbers, what the Federal Reserve data actually shows, what the median American has saved by 50, 55, 60, and 65. And more importantly, what those numbers actually mean for your retirement. You know what? I think you're going to be surprised, and I think the surprise is going to be a good one. Before we get into the numbers by age, you need to understand why most people feel behind even when they're not. It comes down to 2 words, average and median. You've probably seen headlines like this one. The average retirement savings for Americans ages 65 to 74 is over $600,000. That might sound like a hurdle that you need to clear, but averages lie. A small number of people with very large accounts pull the number way up. The median, the number where exactly half of Americans have more and half have less, it tells a completely different story. The median retirement savings for Americans 65 to 74 is about $200,000, not $600,000. $200,000. That gap between $600,000 and $200,000, it's not a rounding error. It's the difference between what the wealthy have saved and what most people have saved. Every time a financial headline uses the average, which is most of the time, you're measuring yourself against the upper half of the country. You know what? That's the bad guy in this story, not your savings balance, the benchmark itself. Let's start at 50. This is usually the moment people begin to sit down and do the math for the first time and feel the panic begin to set in. According to the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, it's the most comprehensive retirement data the government produces here in the U.S. The median net worth for Americans 45 to 54 is about $247,000, and that's everything. Retirement accounts, home equity, savings, everything, the full picture. and the median retirement account balance. So what? That's just your 401k and your IRA kind of accounts. It's roughly between $100,000 to $140,000. If you're 50 and you're somewhere in that range, guess what? You're not behind the average American. You are the average American. The question is not whether you hit a number that somebody else decided you should have. The question is, what does that number become over the next 15 years? And that answer, it might surprise you. Now, by age 55, the picture gets in more focus. This is when people start seriously visualizing retirement, likely for the first time. The median household net worth for Americans, 55 to 64, is about $364,000. Again, that's everything. Accounts, home equity, savings, everything. The median retirement account, okay, so just those retirement accounts we talked about, is $185,000. We're going to dig a lot deeper on that number here in a few minutes. Now, here's a number that almost never makes the headlines. About 40% of Americans at this age has zero saved in a retirement account. Zero. Which means if you have anything at all, even $50,000, you're ahead of a significant portion of your peers. Look, I'm not telling you because that's not going to make you feel good. I'm telling you because if the fear is driving your decisions, delaying retirement, over-saving, giving up years of your life to hit a number, that fear deserves to be based on reality, not on a benchmark built for someone else. Now, how about 60? We're back at that number that surprises people the most. The median retirement account balance for Americans. Again, 55 to 64 is $185,000, not $600,000, not $1 million. $185,000. So do me a favor, keep that number in your head just for a minute, because here's what the data also shows. About 65% of Americans in that same age range, what do they report? They report feeling financially okay or comfortable in retirement surveys. Look, how is that even possible with only $185,000? Because Social Security changes the entire equation. The average Social Security benefit right now is about $2,071 a month. So for a married couple where both partners are receiving benefits, that's closer to $4,142 a month, or $49,704 a year. And that's before you touch a single dollar of savings. So let's add a 4% withdrawal from that account we talked about, $185,000. That's about $620 a month. So for a single person, they're now looking at nearly $2,700 a month total. A couple is now looking nearly at $4,762 a month. Look, that's not a survival retirement. That's a retirement that works. By 65, something interesting begins to happen that almost nobody talks about. The median net worth actually begins to go up in the early years of retirement, from about $364,000 between the ages of 55 to 64 to about $410,000 between the ages of 65 to 74. Why does it go up after people stop working? One reason may be that Social Security is covering a meaningful portion of basic expenses. The portfolio, it's not being drained as fast as people feared, and the financial habits that got them there in the first place, they don't just disappear at retirement. And interestingly, many retirement surveys show retirees report higher satisfaction than those pre-retirees expected. The 80% income rule that financial planners have been quoting for about 30 years, it's not what retirees actually need. Many retirees discover they don't need to replace as much income as they had assumed. The extra savings they spent years accumulating often doesn't result in more happiness. The fear was built on a number. The data says the number was wrong. So here's what I want you to understand about everything we just looked at. The averages tell you what people have in their accounts. They don't tell you what people actually have to live on. Why? Social Security is the missing variable that changes the entire picture. And it's the variable that most online retirement calculators really underestimate. A couple retiring today receives an average combined Social Security benefit annually of about $49,740 a year before they ever touch a penny of savings. That puts them well above the poverty level for an elderly threshold. A senior fellow over the American Enterprise Institute and himself a former deputy commissioner of the Social Security Administration, this is how he put it. A typical couple can expect an income more than twice the elderly poverty threshold before they even touch a single dollar of their own savings. Think about that. Twice above the poverty threshold before your savings. So when you look at $185,000 median retirement account and you feel behind, did you add in your Social Security? Did you factor in your spouse's benefit? Have you looked at what waiting until 70 might do to that monthly check? Because just that, it increases 8% per year past your full retirement age. That's not a small lever. That's potentially $400 to $700 more every single month for the rest of your life. Look, if you want to run specific numbers about Social Security plus savings plus expenses, I come up with what I call the retirement reality check. It'll take you through things step by step. Just drop your email over at brainflash.com. It'll come to your inbox free of charge. Now, look, I want to be honest with you. Some of you watching this are behind. Not just behind the average, but behind where you personally need to be for the retirement that you're imagining. I'm not going to tell you that everything is fine, but I am going to tell you what actually moves the needle. It's not what most people think. The first lever is what people underestimate the most. Working 2 or 3 years longer than you planned does 3 things simultaneously. It adds to your savings, it adds to your Social Security earnings history, which remember they calculate based on your best 35 years, and it reduces the number of years your portfolio has to last. 2 extra years of worth can be worth more to your retirement security than a decade of aggressive saving back in your 40s. The second lever is the claiming decision. If you claim Social Security at 62, instead of waiting until 67, if that's your full retirement age, you permanently reduce your benefit by about 30%. If you wait from 67 to 70, you permanently increase it by 24%. Again, that decision alone, the claiming age, is worth more over a lifetime than most people save in their final 5 years of work. The third lever is expenses. Not dramatic sacrifice, not living on beans and rice, but most people entering retirement are carrying fixed costs from back when they were earning money. They don't need those to follow them into retirement. A car payment, a mortgage on more house than 2 people need, subscriptions and habits from when 2 incomes were coming in. If you can trim $500 a month from expenses, that has the same financial impact on your retirement math as having what? An extra $150,000 in savings. That's just not my opinion. That's the 4% rule working in reverse. You may not need more money. You may just need a different budget. So here's what the data actually shows. Most Americans heading into retirement have between $185,000 and $364,000 in total retirement savings and net worth. Most of them report living quite comfortably, thank you. The benchmarks tell you that you need $1 million or 10 times your salary. Those describe the top quarter of the country, not the middle. And Social Security, for most couples, provides more annual income before touching savings than most people even realize. You may have more than you think. That's not wishful thinking. That's what the Federal Reserve data shows. Look, if this raised questions for you about Social Security strategy, about what your actual number looks like, about what to do if you feel left behind, those videos are already on this channel. This is Brain Flash.